The Hyde Park Art Center was founded in 1939 with the simple but very provocative notion of making contemporary art more democratic, of making it much more accessible, an art form that quite often seems intimidating. The people that founded the Hyde Park Art Center wanted to bring it back to the community itself. It did this. The Art Center has stayed true to that mission since it was founded and has done that in a remarkable variety of ways.
You know, it's a wonderful community resource. I think that Hyde Park obviously is a community of families. You've got a lot of children. Sometimes they don't get all the arts opportunities that they should in the classroom, particularly if they're going to public schools. So to have this easily accessible, user-friendly resource that people feel comfortable tapping into, that's low cost, that you know, provides high-quality instruction and exposes people to the arts, I think is outstanding.
I know that it has been kind of principle of the Art Center to, for the most part, show artists that are not affiliated with a gallery. So it gives many young artists a wonderful opportunity to show their work that they just wouldn't have otherwise.
It gives a place for emerging artists from Chicago to feel like they're being seen and appreciated.
The educational programming has been going on for a number of years that responds to the immediate community's needs, and the curatorial and exhibition programming and other programming is certainly very responsive to the larger Chicago community and the larger Chicago art community. So I think by being responsive simultaneously to both of those communities creates both an unusual opportunity and it makes for a very unusual and exciting kind of institutional situation.
The Art Center wouldn't exist. The Hyde Park Art Center would not have been able to continue without Ruth Horwich.
Ruth Horwich really is the Hyde Park Art Center in many people's mind, and the Hyde Park Art Center is Ruth Horwich.
She held it together repeatedly. She was in a position of leadership for a long time. I think part of the outrageousness and the creativity that has continued is because of Ruth.
Well, she has great generosity of attitude as well as other ways.
Without her, it is not an exaggeration to say that the Hyde Park Art Center wouldn't exist.
It was a friend of Don Baum's, Eleanor Peterson. Eleanor suggested that Don call me and a very good friend of mine to ask us to join the board of the Art Center. And we both accepted. And I would say about 5 minutes after we got to the meeting, we became co-chairmen. And it was very fast, I will say. And that was the beginning.
Ruth is, in the best sense of the word, a lady. I mean, she is someone who is gracious and welcoming, very appropriate in terms of her manner and values.
She's a major civic leader. Lots of people know that she was one of the founding members of the Museum of Contemporary Art, and that she was on the board of the Institute of Design, and she's a big contributor to the Art Institute. She also reached out in many other ways. She was on the board of Poetry Magazine. She's been on the board of Victory Gardens. She's on the foundation of the Cultural Center for the City of Chicago. And she brings that kind of richness of a life immersed in lots of cultural events and cultural ideas. One of the wonderful things for the Hyde Park Art Center is a lot of that enthusiasm and spirit comes back in lots of ways.
She sticks to whatever she starts out, and she's got good ideas, and she's very tolerant, and she really likes art.
First of all, I think it's wonderful that after all these years, we will have our own space. That's quite an accomplishment. Also that the space is so generous, so to speak, that we can do, I think, so many, or carry out, let me say that, a number of ideas that we've had and we're never able to carry through because we didn't have the space, the actual footage. And so now, so many, or a number of those dreams will become a reality.
What this building is about, it had a history, it was here, and now it's been transformed into something completely unique. It's a vision, and it's progressive, and it's moving forward.
Well, the vision really relates to what we were asked to do, which is create a center where a lot of things related to the arts could go on. And we've tried to translate that into the building through materials, through forms, through things like the digital facade. So the building actually, in a sense, is another kind of a tool or a palette or a canvas, you know, abstractly speaking, for artists to interpret, the people who show here, the people who work here.
It was a very happy combination of things that brought the university and the Hyde Park Art Center together, and me personally. For one thing, Hyde Park is a magnificent community, and it is a real community in that people care about its institutions broadly. So naturally, there are quite a number of people in the university community who are actively engaged with the center. And then fortunately, there came to be a moment when we had a building that could be made available to get that process going. So it was a happy set of coincidences, really.
What we hope in this space is a gathering place that people will naturally come. There's a library, there's a conference room, there's lecture spaces where creative people will start interacting in new ways that we can't do in our current space.
We are naming a part of the center 4833 because that is the number of Ruth's house. And Ruth and her husband, very early on, opened their home to young artists and encouraged artists to come and gather there to talk about art and to talk about their own work. And it was a place which was an incredible resource for artists, especially young artists. And there wasn't anything like it in Chicago at the time. There was no MCA, there weren't other institutions. So from very early, her generosity has been very special. Being an artist can be a very isolated experience. And we wanted to create a community for artists as well as for students.
Artists need institutions. There has to be some place to go to create that sense of possibility and that sense of community that I think is so important, so that one realizes that, you know, they are not, in fact, engaged in this activity alone.
It gives the community what nothing else can give it, just a real strong appreciation for art and fostering of that art.
Life for all of us is something that goes on 24 hours a day. It's not just about where we earn our living. And the arts are a crucial part of life, not just a decoration on life, something that you do after the real work of the day is done.
It enriches the lives of people, period. You know, we all struggle day to day to make meaning of our lives, and art is one of the most powerful ways in which we understand our world and our place in it.
One of the delights of getting a new building and having the kind of facility we now have is that we'll really be able to reach out and be much more of a welcoming, gathering place than we ever were in our previous spots. And that, once again, goes back to the kind of nature of Ruth Horwich and the fact that her house was always one of the places where people gathered, where people wanted to discuss contemporary art, where people wanted to be with other creative people. And we really hope that that spirit is embedded in this new building, and as we go forward, will really blossom for all of us.
The fact that after all these years, we now have our own building just says it all.